that for my. So last week we discussed who am I? What is our real identity? So we discussed that we are not the material body, but the soul. So there is a soul, also known as Atma in Sanskrit. So we are not the body, but we are the soul, and we just move from body to body. Sometimes we are in the body of a human, sometimes we are in the body of an animal, a plant, like that. And then we talked about how to prove the existence of a soul. First thing is common sense. What is the difference between the living being and a dead body? So by common sense, we can come to that conclusion. Second is intuitive understanding. So when we say my hand, my leg, my head, so who am I, right? So I'm not the body. I own the body. I am the owner of the body, but the body is separate from me. So that is one way to understand that we are not the body, but the soul. The third thing is consciousness, thinking, feeling, and willing. When we are conscious, we can think, we can feel how good or how bad it would be to do something, and then we will. We will to do that. Okay, let me do this now. I have thought about it. Any action, right, in the world. Like if you want to go to a movie, you think, oh, what movies are out there? Then you feel, oh, if I watch this movie, James Bond movie or whatever, then I feel good. And therefore I will. Then I will spend that $15 ticket to go to a movie theater and then watch it. So that shows that there is consciousness in us by the processes of thinking, feeling, and willing. Then we also talked about near-death experiences and past life memories. So I talked about this professor in the Emory University in Atlanta. He studied about 2,000 cases of reincarnation. And there was a professor in University of Virginia by the name of Ian Stevenson. So he studied a little over 2,500 cases of reincarnation. So people who claim to be somebody else. So this is what I was in a previous life, like that. And then we talked briefly about what the soul is. The soul is indestructible. The soul is Satchitananda, means it is eternal, it is conscious, and it is blissful. Sat means eternal, means it never dies. It just keeps on going from body to body. Chit means consciousness. The soul has consciousness. And Ananda means blissful. So the soul would like to be full of bliss. But what happens is, unfortunately, when the soul is trapped in the human body or any body, now it has to go through lack of bliss or nirananda in Sanskrit. So ananda is bliss, we will be ananda, but we become nirananda, like that. So the soul changes bodies. The soul is infinitesimally small and it is inconceivable. So the size of the soul is 1/10,000, the tip of a human hair. So if you take a human hair, take the tip, divide it into 1,000 parts, right? And then take each part and divide it by 10, right? Make it into 10 pieces. That's how small this soul is, which means it's basically microscopic. So somebody may ask a question, oh, is the size of a soul in a giraffe bigger than the size of a soul in human? So what do you think, Leonard?
You say the size of the soul in the human?
Yeah, in the human versus a giraffe.
Wouldn't it be the same?
Yeah, it has to be the same. That's your point. Yeah, excellent. Excellent. It just because the animal is big doesn't mean that the soul is bigger. No, same size. Okay. So what is the modern civilization that we live in? What we are doing is we are spending all of our energy in polishing the cage of the body, right? We buy good soaps. We have a nice haircut, this, that, whatever, right? We have cream and lotion for the body. We go to a spa, but everything that we do is for the body. So it is like if you buy a parrot, right, in a bird shop, then you put the parrot in the cage, and then the cage is made out of gold, right? Every day you're polishing the gold cage, but you forget to feed the bird. What happens after a while?
Bird will die.
Bird will die. Same thing is happening. So our civilization that we are in is called a cage polishing civilization. So we are polishing the cage, but not the entity within, which is the soul. So what happens after a while? The soul loses interest, because all the activities that we do, watching a movie, driving somewhere, whatever activity you do, right? Everything is for the body. But if you starve the bird of the soul, then what happens? The soul may not die immediately, but it will become withered, it will lose interest in life. And that's why people are going around without any meaning in life in the world. They just go from job to job, from spouse to spouse, from girlfriend to girlfriend, like that. They just keep on wandering aimlessly because they have not really nourished or fed the soul. The soul requires some nourishment, it requires some food, it requires some entertainment. All the things that we do are for the body, only the senses, right? When you watch a movie, your eyes and your brain are getting some kind of enjoyment, but the soul is left out. You're not doing anything for it, right? When you eat something nice, it is for the tongue is enjoying, but the soul is left out. You hear good music or what you think is good music, and the ear is enjoying and the mind is enjoying, but the soul has nothing to do with it. So we have to change our civilization from a cage polishing civilization to that of a soul nourishing civilization. So our humble attempt as a part of this session is to nourish the soul. Some or the other, we have to nourish the soul. So this is what we briefly discussed last time. And now we are going to jump into this session. Who is God? So we talked about who are we. We are not the body, but we are the soul, right? Not the material body, but the spirit soul. And the spirit soul is indestructible, individual. And we live in a civilization to polish the cage, but forget the bird within the cage. So we have to change that. So the second topic is, if we are not the body, then who is God? Is there something called the God? Is it some kind of energy? Is it some kind of person? We'll figure out. So the source of spiritual science is two sets of books. There are others too, but we will be following these two. Bhagavad-Gita as it is, the book that you have, and Srimad Bhagavatam, which is an 18-canto, more advanced text, which we'll come to eventually, but not right away. So what do I mean when I say God? So what is your understanding, Leonard? What is God?
I say everything, like from not really everything. I say the process, like birth, death, the cycle of life,
Mm-hmm.
whatever keeps it in motion and keeps everything basically stuck together, like in this whole round, like cycle that everything comes back to. But everything is, what's the word I'm looking for?
Yeah.
Everything is meant, like everything is perfectly put, from how plants go through photosynthesis, from how we go through age.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a very good thought. So the scriptural definition of God is cause of all causes. So cause of me is my parents, right? And cause
Yep.
of my father is his parents. My cause of the mother is her parents. So in this way, if you just climb up the chain millions of generations ago, the source of all of these causes, that is one definition of God.
Got you.
Ultimate source, right?
Yeah, that's kind of like what I said.
Right. Very much like what you said. The cycle of life and death, how plants come into being, whatever happens to everybody. So yeah, that's exactly what you said. So that's a very good thought, right? So that is one definition.
Got you.
So cause of all causes. For example, you came to my home, you saw bricks, right? So the bricks, who caused the bricks to happen? Oh, there were some bricklayers who came and put cement and then they raised it. But where did the bricks come from? They came from a kiln. Where did the brickmaker put in the kiln? So the brickmaker took some lump of earth from the ground, he shaped it appropriately in a machine or by hand, and then he put it in the kiln. So where did the lump of mud come from? It came from earth. Where did the earth come from? If you work that chain up, ultimately source of everything, that is God. So that is one definition. And you're right on when you said, it controls the life and the cycle of life and looks at life and death and everything that you said is correct. The second definition is God is a supreme controller, right? He controls everything. So you may control your truck, you may control the tools that you use to, set up people with internet connections, or you may have the set of tools to drive a tractor in a farm, for example, or you may have a set of tools to program computers, whatever it is. You are a limited controller. I am a limited controller. But we cannot control planets to float in the air. We cannot control the direction of the sun. It's not like, hey, Mr. Sun, stop rising in the east, start rising in the south. Right? We cannot control the definition of how various planets work, various directions work, things like that. Nothing is in our control. We control small things like, I can control my office cubicle in the office till somebody else comes in with higher power and says, no, I need to work here today. Go find some other place. Right? So we are limited controllers. We may control for a little while. Like there is a joke that somebody had this board outside his home which says, I am the controller of this house. And in parentheses, he says, I have my wife's permission to say so. Right? Because the wife really controls the house. Yeah, yeah. So that is one definition, right? So we control small things. He controls planets, universes, like that. Second is supreme proprietor, means owner, right? Boss. So we own certain things, right? Like for example, I don't even own my home. It's under mortgage with a bank. So I'm not even the owner till I pay off the loan in full, right? So we own certain things, like I own a car, I own my dining table, like a fork and spoon, some utensils in the kitchen, like that, right? So, but God, by definition, he owns everything, all the universes, all the people within the universes, all the 8 billion people on the planet. He owns everything. Then comes supreme enjoyer. So we enjoy certain things, but I cannot eat like 20 loaves of bread just because I like some flavor of certain bread, right? I have my limitations. I cannot enjoy 200 cars. I have 2 cars right now, and then just paying taxes for those 2 and just driving them around, maintaining them is expensive enough. I may have 200 cars, but I still only will drive maybe 5 or 6 cars at any given time. I will only drive 1 car at a time, but maybe Monday car, Tuesday car, Wednesday car, something like that. But I cannot really enjoy 200 cars. But God, by definition, he can enjoy the entire universe, and he's actually enjoying the activities that you and I are doing. So he is a much better enjoyer than we are. Right? We can enjoy only certain things. Right? You can enjoy your kids till they grow up and they start talking back to you. At that point, you will start resenting them or hating them, something like that. You cannot enjoy anything forever, but the Lord can enjoy the sum total of all creation for a long time. So we have this man-made government like Minister of Finance, Minister of Home Affairs, Minister of Defense, right? So there are different departments. And then you have secretaries, undersecretaries, this whole structure in Washington, D.C. So this is man-made government. So there is some structure. Similarly, in the universal structure, we have home ministry. Like home ministry is basically somebody who controls all the police forces, the defense forces, like that, right? So that is called law of karma in the grander scheme of things. So what is karma? Every action has a reaction, whether it's equal reaction or unequal reaction. And that law of karma is the Department of Police for the universe, because otherwise people will do crazy things and get away with it. So to prevent people from getting away from their bad deeds, so the law of karma comes into picture. So we have defense like mechanisms on the southern border with Mexico, northern border with Canada, then in the ocean, Pacific Ocean, Atlantic Ocean. So the defense for the universe is like the ozone layer, the immune system of individuals, right? If we didn't have immune system with all the bacteria around, we would be long dead. But we have certain amount of immune system. So that is your defense. And finance, right? Gold, silver, mines, pearls, all these things Earth is giving. We are not asking for it, but she's still giving. Earth is a person too. You cannot see her as a person because she's too huge. But ultimately, if you want oil, petroleum to drive your car, gasoline, you still need to get it from the earth. Coal comes from the earth. Crops come from the earth. Gold, silver, everything. So ultimately, somebody has to provide us with all these things. So that is the universal finance mechanism. Power supply, right? If you switch on a light, end of the month, you'll get a bill, $100, $150, whatever. But think of the universal power supply, sun, moon, wind, water, right? So many sources of power and facilities for us. So for health, we have naturopathy, we have various kinds of medical systems around the world. So those are all universal medical systems, right? So those are all under universal government. And for each one of these governmental departments, there is somebody running the show. It's not automatic. Education, there are Vedas and other religious scriptures. The Bhagavad-Gita is a part of the Veda. So universal education is there. And if you go to school and college, you learn physics and chemistry and biology and math. But here, this is teaching about the universal order, how the structure is. Then domestic supply, rain, grains, and fruits. Like if all the fruits, trees, and the plants stop giving us food, we'll all starve and die. They are giving us, therefore we are able to eat bread and honey and fruits and jams and all this stuff. So hygiene, cleanliness, right? Rainfall is a cleanser. When it rains, your air becomes clean and the plants get enough water, right? So trees are recycling the oxygen. So there is cleanliness, universal cleanliness too. And rewards. If we behave well in this universe, we'll get a beautiful body. We'll take birth in a rich family. It's not like our birth in a particular family is an accident. Based on past activities called karma, we may be born in a rich family or a poor family. If you are born in a poor family, then you have to struggle to come up, right? You have to struggle, school of hard knocks, somehow make it to college, get a good job, and then still struggle in work. It may take like 40 years before you come to a certain level, right? But if you're born in a rich family, you have it from day one. So that is also based on law of karma. So if we behave well, we'll be born in a certain family like that. Then heavenly planets. So as they say, right, when you do good karma, When you do good deeds, you go to the heaven. So heaven is not just one place. There are multiple planets, heavenly planets as they're called. And then finally, spiritual world. Once we go to heaven, we have to again come back after enjoying for like say 100,000 years or whatever. You take birth again in a different family. But if you go to the spiritual world, that's it. You're never coming back to the material world. So any thoughts or questions on this? There's a lot of information.
So you say there's a chance if you go into the spiritual world, you won't come back to the material world?
Yeah. Once we go to the spiritual world, we'll never come back to the material world. If you go to the if you go to the heaven, like the Bible talks about heaven, Quran talks about heaven, you will come back because heaven is a temporary place for enjoyment, facilities. Because when you get facilities, you enjoy and you become happy. And so that's like a reward for doing good deeds on earth. When you do good deeds on earth, you go to heaven, but it's not a permanent place. So above the heaven, there are even better places like the spiritual world or the third level of heaven, as some scriptures call it. If you go there, you're not going to come back. You'll stay there and you stay there along with God, and you'll spend time and you'll be basically literally like enjoying with him, cracking jokes, eating with him, traveling with him, like that. So that is how the spiritual world is described. Heaven is a place of enjoyment. You will have drones and high-speed aircraft and variety of foodstuffs. So it's better than earth without the negatives, right? Here you have some good stuff, some bad stuff. So heaven is mostly good stuff, but there is still some bad stuff. But spiritual world, as scriptures describe it, you pretty much don't come back and you're always in bliss. Remember I talked about Sat, Chit, Ananda. Ananda means bliss. So the bliss can only be done in spiritual world. Even in the heaven, excuse me, even in the heaven, after your enjoyment finishes, you come back. There is some enjoyment. It's not like as bad as earth, right? Here you enjoy a little bit and then you suffer the next day. You go to the movies, you think you're enjoying, and the next day you get a headache. So there is some suffering that comes along with the enjoyment. So the heavenly enjoyment is better than our earthly enjoyment. Spiritual world is bliss beyond enjoyment. So you never really complain. Any other thoughts?
Well, I got a quick question.
Yeah.
So how do you pick if you're going to stay in the spiritual world or come back, or does God pick that for you?
So that's an excellent question. One of the scriptures says, Karmana Daiva Naitrena. Karmana means based on your karma, and Daiva means God, Netrena means vision. So the vision of God, right? So basically he decides based on your karma what you can become in your next life, whether you'll go back to planet Earth or you will remain in the spiritual world. But in order to, part one is easy. You perform good karma, you give charity, you perform fasting on important days and all that. Part two is very difficult because it's not in your hands, it's in God's hands, right? So grace and mercy, you have heard these terms, right? God's grace is there, which allows us to do good karma, and we get good knowledge about what to do, what not to do. But mercy, he reserves it, right? He chooses what you become the next time. So in order to obtain God's favor, you have to go beyond good karma. You have to do things that are pleasing to him, like following scriptures. Again, even those activities are still the pious activities, like fasting on important days and things like that. But it's at a higher level. So we start off at a certain level and then we go to a higher level. So any thoughts on that?
No, I'm pretty good for the most part.
Yeah, yeah. Again, there will be doubts in the mind, right? Because the mind is fighting with you. The mind is saying, no, I don't think, I don't believe it. Maybe this is all fairy tale. Maybe this is, I need to give it more thought, like that, right? So the mind is
Yeah.
always resisting our um, hearing the scriptures, literally. So we see this huge manifestation, that things that we talked about, right? Karma, ozone layer, protection systems, the gold, silver, the sun, moon, wind, the naturopathy, the Vedas and scriptures and grains and grains. So who is behind this manifestation, right? So one needs to think through that. Who is behind this manifestation? So there is this book. Remember, I talked about two books. One is the Bhagavad-Gita that you have, and the other is Srimad Bhagavatam. In the
Yeah.
Srimad Bhagavatam, it says, Vadanti tat tattvavidas tattvam yajnanam advayam brahmeti paramatmeti bhagavan iti sabhyate. So, learned transcendentalists who know the absolute truth call this non-dual substance Brahman, Paramatma, or Bhagavan. Brahman means God is everywhere. That's the concept. Paramatma means God is localized in your heart, right? Sometimes your heart tells you to do something. It's actually God telling you to do something, right? But of course, they are crazy
Yeah, I
people.
understand that.
Yeah. And then Bhagavan means the person God. The person God is in the spiritual world. So we go through these stages. Like, somebody described this way. When you see a train coming from a distance, the train has a little chimney. We are talking about a steam engine, right? Not like the electric train. So
Yeah.
you see a little bit of steam coming out and some smoke coming out. From a distance, you cannot really see all the different rail cars in the train. You just see something is coming. That is the Brahman understanding, that God is everywhere. Then the train comes within like 300 feet of you. Then you see the different rail cars. You see the windows. You see the roof. So that is a little closer understanding. So that is like the Paramatma understanding, the second part, right? The first part is Brahman from a distance. Second is Paramatma, a little closer. This is better than the previous one, but it is not complete understanding. And the third one is Bhagavan, or God is a person concept. God actually is a person who sometimes manifests as Brahman, or all pervading, sometimes as Paramatma, is localized in the heart, in your heart, in my heart, like that. And third is God is a person, Bhagavan, like that. So ultimately, you can understand God in three levels. And in each one of the level, there are multiple gradations. That is why you have so many religions, right? Like, for example, some religions, they believe in God being everywhere, but they don't say God is a person. So some religions say, oh, God is to be attained in your heart. Listen to your heart, right? So that's the Paramatma understanding. I'm not saying they are anything wrong, but they are only subsets of this overall knowledge, right? So there's like Brahman understanding is maybe 10, 15%. Paramatma understanding is maybe like 30%, but Bhagwan understanding is 100%. So
So they don't. So it's not that they're wrong. They just don't have basically like the full story.
correct. Excellent point. Excellent. They don't have the full story. They have partial story. And sometimes what they do, the Brahman guys start fighting with the Paramatma guys. And the Paramatma guys start fighting with the personality of God guys, right? So, and they say, my religion is better. No, you're all subsets of that overall truth. So let's find that absolute truth.
And I always felt that way. Like even before hearing you say this, just because I don't know. I studied, like not really studied, but in high school I had to take classes on learning about all the different religions, how they basically came to be and everything. And it baffled me that a lot of the religions had either the same story or close to the same story with just names or something changed. So I was like, maybe all these religions are taking something and leaving something out to fit a narrative.
Correct, correct. Excellent point. Yeah, they're leaving some things out just to fit the narrative. For example, when the new religion called Christianity was happening in Jerusalem, the Romans were under control. So they put in some things which fit the narrative, and they removed some things which did not fit the narrative, right? Because Romans were the
Yeah.
rulers, and you cannot go against the rulers. So they had to take some things off. And then when Muhammad was preaching in the Persian deserts near Mecca, again, he picked some things, and his disciples picked some things to be left out, right? So, like there is this big debate going on in parts of the world right now around what Muhammad said is true or not, right? Like, especially in India, there is a debate happening like last week. And some people say, no, 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 that's not what the Quran said, right? Oh, but then you have to look at the time, place, and circumstance based on the situation. Like, who was he preaching
I ain't
to?
got nothing. Yeah, I'm good. But yeah,
Yeah. So
sorry,
based,
I was just talking to somebody.
right, right. So based on time, place, and circumstance, some things were left out, right? Because people may not understand. Like, who was Muhammad talking to? Nomads who were going on camels and horses. Who was Jesus talking to? To fishermen and bankers. So based on the time, place, and circumstance, the prophets left out some stuff, right? But if you have to go back to ancient scriptures to find the complete truth, and that's what we are trying to do through the Bhagavad-Gita, which is a few million years old, and in the modern times, about 5,000 years ago, it was documented in ink. Prior to that, it was not even documented. It was an oral tradition. It was just told by the guru, the spiritual teacher, to his disciple. So, yeah, people, and again, there's nothing wrong with leaving some stuff out because your audience don't understand that stuff.
Yeah,
There's no
it's just
point.
like in like the Old Testament and New Testament. Old Testament tells you not to eat pork. New
Right.
Testament tells you it's okay to eat pork.
Yeah, yeah. So
But
basically,
depending on the
time,
time,
place. Mhm. Excellent. Yeah, I think you have the background to understand these things. Definitely. It depends on the audience that like in the Old Testament, actually, like the 10 commandments, thou shalt not kill. So technically we should not even be eating meat. I gave up eating meat about 20 years ago because the scriptures don't actually like it. Jesus himself was a vegetarian. If you really look at it, hardly any place you see him being described as eating meat. Like they said,
yeah, isn't it just fish?
yeah, he said fish, but only to show that miracle, right? He wanted to
Yeah,
show how he can multiply that to multiple people like that. So we have to understand, now, if you go back to the Torah, and even before the Torah, there are other scriptures, the scrolls, the Dead Sea Scrolls. There are 2,000 books that have been hidden from modern humanity, right? So
yeah,
they are not brought out. I mean, I want to read the Dead Sea Scrolls, and I research the internet, but I can't find them. They are
yeah.
all,
I know what you mean. I've been trying to look for them myself.
yeah. So there are some vested interests. They want to hide the truth. They only want to give you, and again, if you really look at it, right, most of these people who run the world, they just want good workers, right?
Yeah,
They want to keep us dumb, essentially, because if we become too smart, then we are not going to work for them. So they
yeah.
want to keep us dumb and give us a salary and just enough to go by. If you give too much money, then we will stop working, right? So they just give us enough to do the groceries and the rent or the mortgage, and so that we come
Give you a
back to
nurse
work
to keep
next month.
coming back to work.
Exactly, exactly. Like this morning, somebody was telling me in United Kingdom, in Britain, in the 1800s, they had industrial revolution, right? Steam engine came and all the factories, the cotton mills and everything. But all the farmers said they don't want to go to work in the factories. So they passed laws saying that you cannot do this on your land. You can only do these things on your land. So some people were forced to kind of give up working on their farms and come and work in the factories, right? And that's happening again now. The digital world, digital
Yeah,
currency, right? So
that,
if you don't have physical dollars in your hand, everything is on some digital server somewhere,
yeah,
then you are totally at their mercy, believe it or not.
yeah. They can turn you off, turn you on
Yeah,
whenever
they
they
can
feel
cut
like
you
it.
off. Yeah. I mean, there was a movie, I think, on identity theft about 10 or 12 years ago. Suddenly, this person cannot use his credit cards, cannot enter his apartment, cannot access his bank accounts. He's like totally stuck, right? So this is the dangerous situation. That's why they say always keep some reserve, 6 months worth of grain in your cellar. If suppose Costco chooses not to sell you rice, yeah, suddenly if these stores refuse to sell you stuff, at least you can eat for 6 months like that. So it's always best to kind of, it's not like a prepper Armageddon story, but it is always better to be careful, right? Because there are only a few people running the show in the world. But again,
Yeah.
back to this situation. So based on time, place, and circumstance, the various prophets have given limited knowledge. It's not like they did not know the whole knowledge. They just selectively gave that knowledge for the audience. But there are scriptures, like there are thousands of scriptures in ancient India. And there is a website called vedabase.com, vedabase.com, or .io, I think it's called. So let me put it in the chat window. Vedabase.io. So you try this and you will see that there are so many scriptures that now are being published and put them on the internet so that we can understand what it is.
All right, I got it. I saved it in my note in
Yeah.
my bookmarks.
Awesome. So this book is also there on the Veda base. Let me show you. Right?
The one you gave me?
Yeah. Are you seeing my screen? Are you seeing my browser?
Oh no, sorry, I was on the website real quick. I'm gonna go back.
Okay. Did you reach
Now
home?
I can see you.
Did you reach home, or are you on the road still?
Yeah, I'm home.
Okay, awesome. So if you see my screen on your phone, I have this vedabase.io en. So this is the Bhagavad-Gita electronic version, the physical copy that you received. This is the Srimad Bhagavatam, right? And in the PowerPoint presentation, we were looking at what was 1.2.11. So the way you go there is, you go to Canto 1. Canto 1.2. So that is chapter 2 and verse 11. So I'm scrolling down to come to verse 11. And you see it is here. Whatever I just discussed is here.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So here are some terms. Transcendentalist. Transcendentalist means people who cross over materialistic mindset and go higher, right? So learned transcendentalists who know this absolute truth. Every truth in this world is relative, right? So if you say my son is smart, I don't know if you have kids, but let's say that. Then somebody will say compared to what? Compared to whom, right? Is he smarter than the entire class, entire school, entire Dallas area? Everything is relative. But then if you
Yeah, I
take
used to
out
say
all
that in
the...
high school.
Sorry, what was that?
Oh, I was gonna say I used to say that in high school about kids who get all A's, but they have classes that are low level compared to the smarts of somebody else who have all higher classes and don't get probably as good of grades.
Correct. Yeah, I know that. Yeah, all the smart kids get left out because they have the teachers only focus to the entire class, not to the smart guys.
Yeah.
And the opposite also happens. Somebody with disabilities doesn't get special treatment unless they go to a disability school or something. So there are always these
Yeah.
challenges. So what I was trying to say is there are these relative truths, right? This is relative to that. That is relative to something else. But if you take all the relativities out, there is something called absolute truth, from which there is no more change, right? So that absolute truth has three aspects. One is Brahman, the all-pervading concept, like God is everywhere. That's a good statement. which is correct statement, but it's not the complete statement. It's only like telling you 10-15% of the nature of God. Then Paramatma. Oh, God is in you and me. Yes, that's also a good statement, but it's not the complete truth. It's maybe like 30% of the truth. Then Bhagavan. So God is a person. He lives in the spiritual world. That is the complete truth. Like that. Okay, you want to read this? Leonard, can you read what's on the screen?
Yeah, you want me to read it out loud?
Yes, please.
The absolute truth is both subject and object, and there is no qualitative difference between there. Therefore, Brahman,
Brahman.
Brahman,
Uh-huh.
and how you say the second one?
Paramatma
Brahman, Paramama,
and Bhagwan.
and Bhagwan are qualitatively one and the same. The same substance is relative to the impersonal Bhagwan by the student of Upanishad.
Yeah, Upanishads. Yeah, Upanishads are scriptures. There are 108 Upanishads in the ancient literature. So, some students actually read the Upanishads on a daily basis. So that's what they're saying. The same substance is realized as impersonal Brahman by the students of the Upanishads. Okay, keep going.
Is locally paragma by the
Hiranyagarbhas.
Hiranyagarbhas or the yogis, and as Bhagama by the devotees of the worlds. Bhagavan, or the personality of Godhead, is the last word of the absolute truth. Parama is the partial representation of the personality, and the impersonal Bhagma are the growing effulgence of the personal of Godhead, as the sun rays are to the sun God.
Yeah, let's pause there for a moment. Yeah, let's pause there for a moment. So here is an analogy. What's the analogy? There is sun.
The sun's rays in the sun of God, sun God.
Yeah, exactly. So sun God is not a full God. He's a demigod, right? Demigod means partial God. So sun rays come to our planet from the sun, traveling a long distance. And we can look up on the internet how long the sun, far away the sun is from us. Then there is the sun planet, which looks round in shape. It may or may not be perfect round, but that's what we see from this planet. And then there is the personality of sun who lives in that sun planet, right? His body is glowing at 1300 degrees Celsius, right? So we get evaporated at that temperature. But sun god, he survives the 13, actually from his body comes that 1300 degrees Celsius temperature. So there is sun rays that come to us, but that's not the full understanding of the sun. When you look through a telescope, you see a circular object, that is partial understanding. But when you actually, of course, it's very difficult to go to the sun planet, but if you go there and meet with Mr. Sun, that is the full understanding. So here the Swamiji is giving an analogy based on what we can relate to, right? Because if you look up the window, there is sun. And then you can see, oh, there are rays coming. There is a circular object, but it's so far away, I cannot go and see what's on there. But hypothetically, if we go there, we will meet Mr. Sun.
Gotcha.
Yeah, continue, please.
Less intelligent students of either the above schools sometimes argue in favor of their own perspective relativization. By those who are personally seers of the absolute truth, know the well above three features of the absolute truth, and are different perspective views seen from different angels of vision.
Yeah. So basically what's happening, if somebody is less intelligent, what do? They argue in favor of their own respective realization. Oh, you must be wrong, right? Like once I met a Muslim gentleman on the street. I was trying to distribute Bhagavad-Gitas on the street, right? Just like a missionary. And then he was saying, yeah, let me ask you something. Yeah, then we got into discussion. Then I said, is God a person? He said, no, God cannot be a person. I said, but in Quran, he says, Kuda hai Arsh. Kuda means God, Arsh means throne. So Kuda is sitting on a throne. God is sitting on a throne. But he says, no, that's not what it means. It's just some kind of energy, right? But the Quran itself says God is sitting on a throne. So how can you, argue against it? But then that is the challenge. Less intelligent students, they argue in favor of their own realization. That's what they understand, and they think that is superior to everybody else. But we have to step back and think, is there something I'm missing, right? So let me draw a graph for you. So if I say a shape, right? So this is impersonal understanding, means God doesn't have a body. Impersonal, he's not a person. Okay. And then somebody may come and say, oh, I understood God to be present in me as a super soul within my heart, right? So that is a partial personal understanding. And then somebody will come and say, oh, but he's also a person living in the spiritual world. This is the complete personal understanding. So if you really look at it, all three are correct. All three are correct. But they are not complete, except the last one.
Yeah, they're not the absolute truth.
They are not absolute truth. There you go. So this is complete personal, is a big bubble. Partial personal and impersonal. So if you go to impersonal, put them on a different color, and then move this guy onto this, and then send to back, and then you move this here, send to back, right? Now you see that before we fight with somebody based on our understanding, that our understanding may not be complete. It's not like our understanding is wrong, it is just not complete. So this is where most of the people get into trouble. They start fighting with others. And in places like Afghanistan and Iran and Saudi Arabia, they kill each other on this topic. Right? Is it worth it? No, it's not worth it. Let's step back and understand what's going on. So they argue in favor of their own respective realization, which may or may not be true. Right? Okay, continue, please.
As it is explained in the first salako of the first chapter of the Bhagavad-Gita, the supreme truth is self-sufficient, cognitive, and free from illusion of relativity. The relative world, the knower, is different from the known. But in absolute truth, both the knower and the known are one and the same thing. In the relative world, the knower is the living spirit or superior energy, therefore known as inner matter or inferior energy. Therefore, there are duality of inferior and superior energy, whereas in the absolute realm, both the knower and the known are the same superior energy. There are three kinds of energy in the superior energy. There is no difference between the energy and the energetic. but there is a difference between the quality of energies. The absolute realm and the living entity are the same superior energy, but the material world and the inferior energy, but the material world is inferior energy. The living being in contact with inferior energy is an illusion. Keeping him belongs to the inferior energy. Therefore, there is a sense of relativity in the matter of the world. The absolute truth is there is no sense of difference between the knower and the known, and therefore everything is absolute.
Yeah, so now he's talking about absolute and relative. There is a very important line here. The living being, which is you and I are living beings, we are in contact with the inferior energy of the material world, and we become illusioned. We think that there is nothing beyond this. This is it, right? So we are living in an illusion. It's almost like being in the movie Matrix, right?
Mm-hmm.
Why? Because we think we belong to the inferior energy. It's like you go to Disneyland, right? You pay $120 ticket, you get in. And you go through this ride and that ride and that ride and say, wow, this is so great. This is my home. I will just live here. Do you think it is possible?
No.
No. At about 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock in the night, the security guard will come and say, sir, you have to leave now. The park is closed. Right? And that leaving is called death. Eventually,
I
we
was
have
just
to
gonna
get
say
out
that's
of.
when you die.
Yeah, that's why we die. We cannot live here forever because this is inferior energy and we are superior living beings. So we are basically forcibly kicked out, right? No matter how much money you have, like Bill Gates, the chairman of Microsoft, right? How much does he have? 120, 130 billion dollars. He's giving it all away. Why is he giving it all away?
Can't take it with him.
Yeah, he's not going to take it with him. He's going to die. He's already what, like 60 plus or something. In another 10, 15 years, he'll be gone. Nobody will live forever, right? Alexander the Great, he went from Greece, he captured Iran, he captured Afghanistan, he captured part of India. And then as he was moving forward, he got killed and he died, right? He had literally half of the known world back then. We are talking about like buying a small house in Prosper or McKinney or Allen. He had half of the known world from Greece, Europe, Iran, Afghanistan. The whole thing belonged to him, right? And he died. Everybody has to die. So we are under the inferior energy. Superior energy is the spiritual world, and we are under inferior energy. So what happens? We cannot stay here. We will be kicked out. Therefore, we have to get back to that absolute world. Just like in physics, they do experiments, right? They'll put like, they will leave a set of neutrons and electrons against a magnetic pole. And so all of a sudden, those things get repelled and they move in the opposite direction, right? It's like that. If you don't belong, you'll be kicked out. And we don't belong in the material world. We have to go to the spiritual world or the absolute truth. I mean, all of the theologies or all of the religious systems agree that, but it is not complete, right? So we have to seek the complete personal truth of spirituality. Okay.
Gotcha.
Awesome. Awesome. So that is a lot of theory. Now let's do some mantra chanting. So the mantra chanting is also in the same Veda base. I'll show you where it is. I'm giving you a web page so that you can access it anywhere, any time of the day like that. So if you go to the very first link, the Bhagavad-Gita, the book that you have, click on it. You can read it from the book too. You don't need to do it online. And if you go to introduction, If you go to introduction and then you do a Control F and say Hare, this is where it is. It's probably like on the third page or fourth page of your book, in the third or fourth page of introduction in your book. So this is the mantra. Okay, let's chant this together. Oh, actually, before this mantra, you chant a different mantra. Try this with me. Say, repeat after me. Sri Krishna
Sri Krishna
Chaitanya
Chaitanya
Prabhu
Prabhu
Nityananda
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 Shri Advaita
Sri Advaita
Gadadhara
Gadadhara
Shrivasadi
Shiva Asri
Gaura Bhakta
Gaura Bhakta
Vrinda.
Vrinda.
I know, I apologize. This is very complex stuff. But gradually you'll get comfortable with this stuff. I'll tell you a little trick here. Whenever there's an A with a line on the top, it's called a diacritic. You say ah. So it will like
Okay.
it's not Shivas, it is Shrivas. Adi.
Shiva Sara.
Adi. Like there's an A and the diacritic on the top, it's called Adi. So anything SRI is Sri. But because there's a diacritic on the top, it becomes Sri, like that.
Okay.
You stretch out. Same thing here. It is Nit Ya Nanda. Because with the A with a dash, you say Nityananda. Whereas this A is short A, Nityananda and Nanda. But this is a Nityananda, like that.
Nityananda.
Right. Okay, now let's chant this together. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Krishna Krishna.
Krishna Krishna.
Hare Hare.
Hare Hare.
Hare Rama.
Hare Rama.
Hare Rama.
Hare Rama.
Rama Rama.
Rama Rama.
Hare Hare.
Hare Hare.
Now let's chant together. Remember last time we used this tune to chant. We can follow along. Right.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama.
That's too fast. So I'm trying to see if there is something slower. Audio. Okay, let's try this, even if it is fast. Okay.
Okay.
So I will I'll play this and then I'll put the text up there. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare.
Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram.
Ram, Hare Hare. Okay, let's do it together. Hare Krishna, Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna,
Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna,
Hare
Hare
Krishna,
Krishna,
Hare Krishna,
Krishna,
Rama,
Krishna,
Krishna,
Hare,
Hare, Hare, Hare
Hare
Rama,
Rama,
Hare
Hare
Rama,
Rama, Rama,
Rama, Rama, Hare,
Hare
Hare,
Hare, Hare Krishna,
Krishna,
Hare
Hare Krishna,
Krishna,
Hare
Krishna,
Krishna, Krishna,
Hare
Hare, Hare, Hare,
Hare, Hare Rama,
Hare Rama,
Hare
Hare Rama,
Rama, Rama Rama,
Rama, Rama,
Hare
Hare,
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 Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna,
Krishna Krishna,
Krishna,
Hare Hare,
Hare,
Hare Rama, Hare Rama,
Hare,
Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare, Hare,
Hare Krishna,
Krishna,
Hare
Hare Krishna,
Krishna Krishna,
Krishna, Krishna,
Hare Hare,
Hare, Hare,
Hare Rama,
Hare Rama,
Hare Rama,
Hare Rama,
Rama Rama,
Rama, Rama,
Hare Hare, Hare Krishna,
Hare
Hare Krishna,
Krishna,
Krishna Krishna,
Krishna, Krishna,
Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama,
Hare
Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare, Hare,
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama,
Rama, Rama,
Hare Hare,
Hare,
Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna,
Krishna Krishna,
Krishna, Krishna,
Hare Hare, Hare Rama,
Hare Rama,
Hare Rama, Rama Rama,
Rama,
Hare Hare,
Hare, Hare,
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna,
Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama,
Hare Rama,
Rama Rama,
Rama, Rama,
Hare Hare,
Hare, Hare,
Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna,
Krishna Krishna,
Krishna, Krishna,
Hare Hare,
Hare,
Hare Rama,
Hare Rama,
Hare Rama,
Rama,
Rama Rama,
Rama, Rama,
Hare Hare.
Hare, Hare.
So we'll pause there for a minute. Let me show you something else. I will stop the recording because I'll be showing something on YouTube.
True. Just try to understand what is incarnation. Incarnation means the Sanskrit word of avatara, and that is translated into English as incarnation. Of course, the root meaning of incarnation cannot mean no. The root meaning of incarnation I cannot exactly explain to you, but the root meaning of the aside somebody stop, yes. The root meaning of avat- avatar is which comes from the traditional sky, the spiritual sky to the material sky. That is called of avatara, avatani, avatana, avatarana. Just like avatana means coming from up to down, that is called avatarana. Avatarana and avatara is the understanding that God or his bona fide representative comes from the sky to the material plane. That is called avatara. So this sound, this Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, is the sign that represents the Supreme Lord. The Sarvam Kal Idam
Brahma.
Brahma, from the Supreme Absolute Truth. Nothing is separate, everything is emanated from the Absolute Truth. Aside, come on, sit down, just like the example, just like Earth. Earth, then from Earth, you have got wood, fuel. From fuel, you get fire. First of all, there is smoke. Then after smoke, there is fire. And the fire, from the fire, you take work. Now, beginning from earth, there is wood. From wood, there is smoke. From smoke, there is fire. There is a link between the fire and the earth, but the work of the smoke, from the smoke, there is fire. There is a link between the fire and the earth. Hold on.
Yeah. Actually, yeah,
Well,
we'll stop there. But basically, he's saying the actual meaning. Let me go find a different link where there is the actual meaning. Okay. Yeah, read this, please.
what'd you say?
Yeah, if you can read this.
All right. The transcendental vibration estimated by the chanting of Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, is a sublime method of reviving our Krishna conscience. As living spiritual souls, we are all originally Krishna conscious entities, but due to our association with matter from the time immemorial, our conscience is now polluted by material atmosphere. The material atmosphere is which we are living in now, called the Maya or illusion. Maya means that which is not. What is this illusion? The illusion is that we are all trying to live to be lords of material nature, while actually we are under the grip of her stringent laws. When a servant artificially tries to emulate the all-powerful master, this is called illusion, the polluted concept of life. We are all trying to exploit the resources of matter of nature, but actually we are becoming more and more entangled into her complexities. Therefore, although we are engaged in a hard struggle of conquered nature, nature, we are never more dependent on her. This illusory struggle against the material nature, but actually we are becoming more and more the struggle of conquered nature, we are even more dependent on her. The illusion struggle against the material nature can be stopped at once by revival of our Krishna consciousness. Krishna consciousness is not an artificial imposition of the mind. This consciousness is the original energy of the living entity. We hear the traditional vibrations, the consciousness is revived. In this process is recommended for this age of authorities by
Okay,
practical
let's pause there.
experience.
Yeah, let's pause there.
Yeah.
So basically, when we hear the transcendental vibration, this consciousness is revived. So when we hear the chanting, we should hear it. So this consciousness, which is the spiritual consciousness, because we are in matter, it is now trapped, right? It's not fully manifest. So we need to chant this vibration, the mantra, and this consciousness, the spiritual consciousness is revived, it comes out. So that is the key message, right?
Gotcha.
Okay, let's start from here. This chanting.
Okay. And I'm be headed to Florida this next week. I should be back by Friday. So after that, I'd love to go by your church.
Okay,
Or
yeah.
your temple.
Yeah, Saturday, what we do is we go out into the open and we sing. You are welcome to join us. So we meet at a store in Frisco. I can send you the address and then you can meet us there and we can all chant this mantra. So right now we are only practicing theory, right? Just like in those videos, those guys are all chanting in the park. We could do that too if you like. So Saturday evening,
Okay.
go there.
Okay.
Okay. That's
Okay.
good.
Yeah, I really appreciate it.
Yeah, yeah. So basically, the more we hear this chanting, the more we become attracted to the Supreme Lord, and the more we basically come closer to going back to the spiritual world.
Check out this
Let me show you this and then we'll stop for the day.
Michael, they're your cousins. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna,
Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare. Okay, so that was that, right? Basically, by chanting and dancing, you can go back, get liberation, and go back home to the spiritual world. Can you beat that?
Yes, I can see it.
Yeah, yeah.